Today's episode of my daily digital marketing podcast is a grab bag of marketing things I heard over the last week that I found interesting that are too small to get their own episode, but together just makes for a little bit of an interesting miscellaneous episode. Number one is using emojis to get top of mind awareness for your brand. What? How does that work? This is research done by detailed.com, which I really love and I share all the time on this show, detailed.com. Detailed.com turned the monster alien emoji, that purple little emoji that looks like one of the Space Invaders. It's the monster alien emoji. Turned that into a 3D icon, paid just a few $100s to turn it into a 3D icon in lots of different forms that it uses throughout its site, in the heading images of its articles, in the banner images for its social media accounts, in its footer. All over the website, you see this 3D high definition avatar of the alien monster emoji. And Glenn Alsop, the founder of detailed.com, shared why he did this. And I thought it was so cool. I really liked it. Glenn Alsop observed that Morning Brew, all of Morning Brew's staff had the coffee cup with the coffee in it, the coffee emoji, in their Twitter and social media profile names. They all had the coffee cup emoji. They were so prolific in posting that what would happen was, because Glenn Alsop would see their tweets, would see their posts all the time, and would notice the coffee cup emoji whenever they posted, what happened was, when he would see the coffee cup emoji in other places where it wasn't even related to Morning Brew, he would think of Morning Brew. So maybe he was choosing an emoji to send to a friend, and he would see the coffee cup emoji, and then he would think of Morning Brew. He would check Morning Brew. Or maybe just another friend sent him the coffee cup emoji. Maybe he saw the coffee cup emoji on Tinder. Coffee cup emoji is a very popular emoji, and whenever he saw it, he thought of Morning Brew, and he thought it was so cool that Morning Brew could get top of mind awareness just through repetition of an emoji. They hijacked one of the most popular emojis to get top of mind awareness whenever fans saw that emoji, to be reminded of the brand whenever fans saw that emoji. And he observed that, and he said, I want that for my brand. I want it so when my readers see the alien monster emoji, they think of detailed.com. They think of me, Glenn Alsop, at detailed.com. He goes, that's what I want. So he noticed this cool little thing. He put it into action, and he uses this alien monster emoji all throughout his branding to get that extra top of mind awareness, so that when his readers see that emoji anywhere, they think of detailed.com. And I thought that was such a cool little thing that he did. So small, but potentially impactful. And I really like that. Okay, number two. This comes from the founder of dupe.com, Bobby from dupe.com. And he does this cool thing. He has his social media names as Bobby from dupe.com. Just a small little thing. And whenever you do a product launch, if you're active making content on social media, or if you're promoting your brand regularly, just be a person, but put the name of your brand into your social media name. So I'm launching my product soon, Compact Keywords. I will probably change my name to Edward Sturm from Compact Keywords. When I am posting 6 times a day on Instagram Reels and growing like crazy, it is proven that if you do high frequency posting on Instagram and TikTok, you will grow really obnoxiously fast. People are going to see my name as Edward Sturm from Compact Keywords. People who already know of Compact Keywords will be reminded of it all the time. People who don't know will look into it. I have a friend who's a dating coach. He just signed up to X because he thinks he'll be able to get a really relevant audience on X, and X allows pornography. June 4th, they announced that they allow pornography. So the rules for posting are kind of non-existent. Like anything goes now. And so he joined, and he made his name, his full name, and then dash dating coach. So whenever he posts, people know what he's about. Bobby from dupe.com, people look into dupe.com, or people who already know of dupe.com think of dupe.com. My dating coach friend is commenting on accounts that have followings of the types of people that he thinks would be his customers. And so he believes that these people are interested in a dating coach. They see him post, he puts up good content, they see that his name has dating coach in it, they look into his profile, and then maybe they convert to a following. And as they go deeper into his content, maybe they convert into a paying customer. Again, this is such a tiny little thing, but what's cool is that if you have multiple product lines, you can constantly change your name to have the product line in it. Number 3, this one I also learned from Bobby from dupe.com, and I thought this was so brilliant, but it also potentially goes against the terms of service for a lot of social media platforms. However, it is hard to prove consistently. This is what Bobby from dupe.com does. So first, he got good at making content himself. He has gotten pretty decent at making viral content on Instagram Reels and TikTok. He did this through practice and repetition. So he knows what works and what does not work. And now he has basically an army of creators who he trained. They each have to post one video a day. He pays them each $100 per video. So they have to post at least one video a day. When they post a video, they get $100. And he has an army of creators, and all of these creators are making content, organic content, promoting dupe.com. And a bunch of the time, the content goes viral. And then what happens is people are seeing dupe.com everywhere. They are getting reminded of it everywhere. And the way that the sales funnel works these days is most people aren't going to buy on their first appearance unless they really love the account that the product is coming from or the brand that the product is coming from. But most people have to hear about something 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And by having this army of creators, it's not just coming from one person, it's coming from multiple people. And when you see it coming from multiple people, it has this effect like, this is the hot topic, this is the hot thing, I need to get this. There's FOMO, there's fear of missing out. Exactly like what happened with NFTs. You have one friend who gets in on an NFT sale, they talk about it, and then you hear about that same NFT sale from another friend. All of a sudden, you feel FOMO. Now you bought the NFT and you're telling your other friends and they're buying. I saw this from so many different NFT sales, but he's using this to his advantage. Each creator gets $100 per video. He only gives them a few weeks to know if they're serious or not. He wants people who just are hardcore, who are really trying to figure it out. And the people who seem like they're not motivated, he cuts. And he's able to train these people because he learned how to make content himself first. And so what happens is consumers are hit everywhere. People see dupe.com several times, and then they go and try it because people need to be reminded of something several times before they convert. And the last thing on today's episode, the last thing that I heard that I thought was interesting, it comes from Neil Patel, who is a legendary marketer. I've talked about Neil Patel before. Lots of listeners and watchers know who Neil Patel is. And he said something in his most recent video, a short statistic that I thought was so interesting because I say this all the time myself. But he actually gave a statistic behind it, and it is about the performance of AI-generated content. Now, I write all of my newsletters myself. I write all of the articles on my website myself. I don't write anything with AI. And this is what Neil Patel said. He said, we have found that AI content ranks lower 94.12% of the time over human written content. And we haven't seen many examples of AI content generating great social engagement. Personally, I think AI content works when a human writes the script and then maybe they use 11 labs to generate the voice. But even then, they will use traditional B-roll. They will use traditional video, not AI-generated video. And AI-generated scripts really are bad. I've tried using them before in my content. They are terrible, and I don't use them anymore. AI-generated text, I don't believe it's good for brand building. I think it is risky for SEO. I've seen it work in plenty of instances, and then companies get caught and they have to stop using it, or they get penalized. And they were better off just not doing it in the first place. And Neil Patel says, because his agency does a lot of research, that they have found that AI content ranks lower 94.12% of the time over human written content. The one time when this works, and this is still dangerous because then websites get discovered and they get penalizations from Google. I know people who generate thousands or tens of thousands of pages to rank on Google using AI written text. And you will see there's a dramatic spike upwards, and this will work for a while because thousands or tens of thousands of pages are generated on sites that are not sandbox, that are not new, and then they get found out. And the whole people literally have reported that their entire Google Search Console portfolio has been penalized because of one bad site using AI generated text. I have seen that on X. I've seen people reporting that on X. I know that AI generated text works. I don't think it is a smart long-term practice. I'm actually going to include one fifth thing in this, and it comes from the email that I sent out today, my newsletter today, which I think was one of my best newsletters. I really like this newsletter that went out today. It's called Lessons from Ryan Reynolds. It's about how I went to the Forbes Iconoclast Summit a few weeks ago. There was over $20 trillion in assets under management in the room and only 200 attendees here. And there were such crazy guests, an insane guest list. And one of them was this guy, Jay Penske. Thing about Google is actually dominated by really just 16 companies. I'll just read what I wrote. The law of the vital few, otherwise known as the Pareto principle, also applies to Google. 20% of companies get 80% of the clicks, and within that 20%, there's only 16 companies that really dominate. So 16 companies dominate Google. One of them is this company PMC, which stands for Penske Media Corporation. PMC successfully owns and operates Variety, Rolling Stone, The Hollywood Reporter, Billboard, WWD, She Media, Deadline. There's actually so many here. I'm just reading the big ones that I've heard of. Spy.com, Luminate, the American Country Music Awards, Golden Globe Awards, American Music Awards, Billboard Music Awards, New Year's Rocking Eve. What? They do New Year's? Oh my God. Streamy Awards, television programs like So You Think You Can Dance. They own South by Southwest, Latin Music Week, ATX Television Festival. They're the largest shareholder in Vox Media. Vox Media is another one of the companies in the 16 companies that dominate Google. And so the founder, Jay Penske, was one of the speakers at the Forbes Iconoclast Summit, and I saw him speak. I got a seat up front. I've been making videos about it. But he said this thing that I loved so much. He said, when you have a long trajectory, like you really believe that you want to own this business for 25 to 50 years from now, when you have that long-term mindset, you're making decisions that are so much healthier for the near-term success of the brands that you have. He goes, I'm out for building not fleeting businesses, but generational assets. So he says the best way to get short-term successes is to have a long-term mindset and to choose things that you'd be happy working on for a long time. He started Penske Media Corporation, PMC, 19 years ago. That stood out to me. And the way that I operate my brand is I don't want to hurt my reputation with lazy, bad, boring, bland, AI-written content. I refuse to do that because eventually people will stop trusting me. And trust is everything. And so I appreciated this statistic that Neil Patel said, how 94.12% of AI content ranks lower than human written content. I thought that was interesting, went in line with this thing that I heard from Jay Penske. And that is the 5 things that I wanted to share. Each little things, but together make a nice, interesting episode of my daily digital marketing podcast, The Edward Show. This is episode 389 days in a row doing this thing. Consecutive days. Can you believe that? I have done this for 389 days in a row. You know what I did 12 days ago? I made a podcast. You know what I did 50 days ago? I made a podcast. Can you guess what I did 294 days ago? I actually made a podcast. Every day in a row. Crazy. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.